Hello class, so we're going to look at Mograph today. It's very exciting. It's a unique aspect of Cinema 4D. It's a module that has all of these special objects that are, one, they do specific jobs, two, they're very inclined to animation and getting you animating things fast. They can take very complicated processes and do them quickly. So they're super useful. You can use them both for modeling and animating. A lot of it is definitely geared towards animating, but you can certainly use them for both. So the Mograph module is this one over here. We're going to talk about the cloner, we're going to talk about motex, and we're going to talk about fracture. These other ones we'll see. I'm not quite sure if we're going to get a chance to come back to them, but for sure we'll talk about the cloner, motex, and fracture because those ones are important. Cloner is a really amazing object. You guys will love it, both for modeling and animating. It is a way for you to take one object and clone it, as the name implies. So if you have like 50 screws that you need, you do not need to copy and paste them. You can come in here and you can use the cloner and you can make 49 copies of your screw. Motext is 3D text. You have this option versus what you've seen before. So that's what it looks like, Motext. You've seen before, we've talked about making text with a text spline and putting it into an extrude, which definitely works. Motext is, you can see here, it's already got text. It doesn't need to have the spline and then have an extrude to work with it. The reason that you might use Motex over a spline is because you see all of these green objects are Mograph objects, and then these ones, they also say they're objects down there in the bottom left corner, but we, up to this version, we called these effectors, and basically you use these to animate. So you could take Motext and then you could use any of these effectors to animate the words or the letters, and you are not able to use these on anything outside of the Mograph module. So you can't use them on a spline per se. You might be able to combine it some other way, but you see we do have most spline here. So these guys work as a unit. Okay, so if you want to randomize something, if you want to delay something, these ones are pretty obvious what they might do. This one's really cool, the sound effector. This is, you can give it a music or a sound file and you could have it animate to the beats in the song and whatnot. Shader is a way for you to use like textures to animate. That's one way you could use shader. Delay stuff. Formula lets you put a formula in, which is obviously might seem very bizarre, but again, it's an interesting way to work going forward. Python is Python code, so there's a lot of really interesting ways you could animate using these effectors. And then the fracture, I want to talk about the fracture. It's got sort of two purposes. Its main goal is to sort of explode things, take them apart, so you could use them to have something shatter or that kind of effect, which obviously is pretty cool. You could always also use it to split up more complex objects. So if you have a model that's built with all sorts of different little spline parts and you want to be able to have an effector go in and I don't want to say effect, but this is instead what I'm going to say. Have it be able to apply itself to each one of those. The fracture will help you sort of pass that down, as opposed to it just applying it to the whole object as one piece. It can go into the individual parts and affect them separately. Okay, so I want to talk about fracture because we're going to be talking about animating text once we start talking about Mograph. So you could use Motext, or you might need to use fracture if you're using a text spline.